The phase that I'm in with my oldest son, Cameron, I believe that I'm still in the idolization phase, okay, where my son wants to be just like me. He wants me to be proud of him. I'm a superhero to him, even though I'm just a human being, right? Even though he's seen me get into it with his mom when he was younger, he still idolizes me and he views me as this person who's so extra great. And am I getting choked up right now? What's up, y'all? It's Nate Almighty, and this video is for the fathers today. All the fathers who have sons, okay? So I saw this clip on Instagram, and there's this guy, I forget his name, but he's from the YouTube channel called Valuetainment. This is a great channel. Definitely for men. They deal with, politics and manly stuff like that, right? Real upstanding guys who own businesses and things like that, millionaires, right? And the title of this video, which was inspired by him, is Fathers and Sons Go Through 3 Phases, 3 relationships in a lifetime. The first phase is idolize. The son idolizes his father early on in his life. He feels like his father can do no wrong. To him, his father is his first superhero. Above Spider-Man and Wolverine and everyone of those Marvel characters or whatever he watches on TV, to him, his father is a god, right? Can't do no wrong. The second phase is demonizes. The second phase, who knows? The son who thought his father was so great, he realizes that his father, can sometimes be an effed up individual. Or maybe the mother and the father break up and you got the mother bad-mouthing the son every day. Maybe you have the father every day. Maybe you have the mother forcibly keeping the father away from the son, but making it appear as if the father isn't putting any effort. So then he becomes demonized. He becomes a villain in the son's eyes. And then the final phase, where everything comes full circle, is when he humanizes his father. That's when he lives a little more. He grows into himself as a man, and he understands that I'm not perfect. He's not perfect. Mom wasn't perfect either. Dad disappointed me a few times. I've disappointed him, but I know that he loves me. I know that he always put his best foot forward. He's just not perfect. And it's probably like 10 o'clock today as I'm making this video right now. So what I do is I wake up every day. I scour the internet. I look for things that are going to inspire me for whatever videos I'm going to make. And this video touched me to a point where I almost shed a tear because I can relate to that in 2 different ways. The first way is the fact that I am a father. I am a father, and I feel like I'm in 2 different phases with both of my sons, which I'm going to get into detail in it with, and also how I grew to humanize my stepfather, who was a raging alcoholic and used to get drunk with my mom every day and embarrass me. And first of all, I'm going to talk about my sons, right? Okay, so the phase that I'm in with my oldest son, Cameron, I believe that I'm still in the idolization phase, okay, where my son wants to be just like me. He wants to be exactly like me. He wants me to be proud of him. I'm a superhero to him, even though I'm just a human being, right? Even though he's seen me get into it with his mom when he was younger, he still idolizes me and he views me as this person who's so extra great. And am I getting choked up right now? That's what happens when you love your kids, right? Sometimes I feel like the way my older son loves me and wants to be like me, it scares me. Because it's like, it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure on me, Also, he knows that I make content. Both my sons know I make content on YouTube, but it's my older son who really wants to be a YouTuber. So I'm stuck with trying to tell him, hey, YouTube is cool, but what about those Goosebumps books that I sent you to read? What about those Spider-Man comic books I sent you to read? Because I want you to continue to read, because I'm going to have you read more important books. You know what I'm saying? Like Message to the Black Man by Elijah Muhammad. You know? Like The Art of War by Sun Tzu. What about those books? How come your mother's not making you read those books? You know? How come no one's buying you books? You talking to me about money for your Roblox card and you want a laptop so you can try to live stream on Discord and all this other stuff. You know, he wants to be just like me. Also, he's a Pisces like me. So I feel like I understand a lot of his thinking patterns. But I feel like I'm in the idolization phase and he's 11. So I'm like, the demonization phase is going to come. It's going to come. There's going to be a point where he's going to feel like he's too cool to deal with me. There's going to come a point where he may say, I wanted to be with you. I wanted to see you, and you weren't available for me to see you. You know, I know the demonization phase is coming. Hopefully it doesn't last too long, but I know it's coming, and I wanted to have him with me when that happens. Even though, you know, we all know if your father, we don't necessarily have control over that. That's up to family court. That's up to the mother, you know. And it, honestly, as a dad, it scares me. It scares me, you know. And then when you talk about my other son who is also 11, you know, I have 2 baby mothers, but I promise you guys, this is not a situation where I was with one, cheating on one, and got with the other. But they're 8 months apart anyway. But I know right now I'm going through a demonization phase with my younger son because me and his mother have had so many problems. And the fact that I wasn't there the first couple years of his life because I didn't believe he was mine, to the point where I took him in. I took the test, decided to be his father after I got the paternity results, only for then me and his mother to have so big of problems that at this point now she's totally forcing me out of his life. Like, she's told me, he doesn't want to see you. Don't check for him. Last summer, I wanted to have him for the summer because I had him the summer before that, right? No, I had him the summer before last summer because she found a way last summer to not let him come with me, right? So I only had one of my kids. By the way, both of my kids who live in New York City, they never see each other. They don't speak to each other unless I have them. This is the burden that I've been dealing with, you know, but ultimately I gotta put the blame on myself more than anyone else because it is me who chose to lay down with these women. It is me who didn't marry these women. It's me who wasn't with these women. It's me who chose to be difficult and disrespectful at times, knowing they couldn't handle the disrespect and then forced them to be disrespectful back. But anyways, I've been totally pushed out of my younger son's life, you know, and it kills me when my oldest son mentions his little brother, who, when I introduced them to each other at 4 or 5 years old, I told him, this is your brother. This is supposed to be your best friend. You ain't supposed to beef with your brother over no girls, no money. You're supposed to have his back. He's supposed to have your back. Certain brotherly values that I wanted to instill in them, they are now estranged from each other because I am estranged from their mothers in a way. And I know that she demonizes me to my son. I know that she's dealing with this guy who, instead of being a real man and telling her, hey, listen, that guy does his best for y'all son. You should let him be in his son's life. He chooses to be Captain Save him. He don't need his father. I got y'all. When I know that the moment they break up, he's going to destroy my son by never being involved with my son again. But I have to deal with that. And I'm going through the demonization phase right now. You know what I'm saying? And this is what relates me to the humanization phase. And now I talk about my stepfather. And how all of these things ring true, right? When I was a kid, I was about 8 years old when my mother got with my stepfather. And I thought this guy could do no wrong. I thought he was so cool, you know. He used to buy me Pokemon cards. He picked me up from after school every day. I never seen him disrespect my mother. This is for like a year or two. They seemed so happy. This is before I knew what a honeymoon phase was. So now, 2-3 years into the relationship, I realized is that not only this man smokes. First of all, I viewed him as this great guy. He was like a god to me, you know. I was a little kid. My father died when I was 3, 4 years old. My mother didn't deal with too many other men. So I didn't have too many other men around me. So I got really attached to this man when I was young. And I idolized him. I idolized him. Then I got a little bit older and I realized that this man had a drinking problem. And I realized that my mother had developed a drinking problem as well. I was too young to understand what people go through that lead them to having drinking problems. All I could see was this man was disrespecting my mom, cheating on my mom, getting drunk, trying to push me around, breaking stuff in the house. I began to demonize this man, and, you know, rightfully so, you know. He was being a penis head, right? I demonized him. I hated him. At the same time, I loved that man because he was the only person in my life who was anything close to a father. This is somebody who I still knew loved my mom, even though he was putting us through so much. I didn't understand the pain and the trauma that that man may have went through that led to his issues. I didn't realize that he had his own apartment, and when he was drinking, heavy drinking and making a fool of himself, he simply was just staying away and not letting us see it. I demonized him. Part of that led me to going into the streets, looking for role models, looking for father figures, looking to do bad things to let off some steam, you know? To the point where I was 14, 15 and seeing what's going on in the house, being upset, and going outside saying, now I want to rob somebody, now I want to beat somebody up. Now I got to knock somebody out, you know? And he was a terrible drunk, you know? I don't know if anyone watching this has been a subscriber to my channel from when I first started and I used to reveal things like this, right? But I remember he used to be drunk all the time to where he'd get a job, he'd lose a job. And I remember he used to be drunk all the time to where I come home from school, it's 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, in the evening, and he'd be drunk, passed out, laying on the floor, you know what I'm saying? Laying on the floor with his pants down, booty out, a adult video playing on the TV. You know, I'm embarrassed. I'm trying to come into the house with my friends. I'm trying to bring girls in the house. And as soon as you come in the house, you know, the living room's right there. And it's just a booty in your face. You know, it was embarrassing. And then I went to prison. I had to go through counseling where they try to help you understand where your anger comes from, where your substance abuse comes from. I had time to think and reflect and be introspective. And I realized that I made mistakes that caused my life to be a certain way. I've been through things that caused me to be a certain way. So, of course, I ended up gaining information about how my stepfather grew up and how his father was a drunk and how his father was abusive, you know, physically, you know, overly did it with the discipline with him and his 2 brothers and abused his mom. And I began to humanize him. Even though it wasn't so easy to do it when I first came home, because there was one good time within my first year or 2 home where I felt like I had to knock him out, right? And I did. But after that, even though he was still drinking up until 2012, which was when I was home for 2 years, he then began to try to stop drinking once I started having children because he wanted to be a grandfather. I remember my son was a baby. And we all had him in the living room. And my stepfather was drunk. But he said to me, he said, I love him. I love your son, Julius. Will you please allow me to be his grandfather? Sorry, I'm getting choked up a little bit. You know, life is real, you know? And I remember telling him, sure. You know, his mother, I'm like, my son's mother, her father wasn't in her life. So you would be his only grandfather. Sure. But you have to stop drinking or you're never going to be around him. I won't have him around. And he's told me, he promised he'll stop drinking And although it was a little rough after that, he's been sober for a good 6, 7 years straight. And my kids adore him, especially my older son, who's been around him since he was a baby. Adore him. My son probably loves that man more than me, more than his own grandmother, you know? And I have no problem with that because he's a good grandfather, right? Too soft on him if you ask me, but that's how grandparents are, They're hard on the kids, soft on the grandkids. And through it all, I humanized him in my mind. It's like, I understand what you've been through as a man. Like, when you cheated on my mom when I was a kid, and I hated you for years for that because of what you put my mom through. And I hated my mom for bringing him back. I humanized my mother too because I understood that women get cheated on. I'm not saying if it's right or it's wrong. Men cheat. We all understand a man's nature. I'm not saying if it's right or it's wrong. But as I grew up and I dealt with women and I made my own mistakes and I lost a woman who I considered to be the love of my life when I was younger at that time from cheating, religiously cheating. I understood that, we're humans. We make mistakes. And I grew to forgive him because I understood that he's not perfect. And it wasn't fair of me to put such a heavy burden on him and choose for him to have to be perfect in my eyes. I believe that's all I have to say. But if you're a father and you have sons, what do you think about the 3 phases that a father and son go through in life? The 3 kinds of relationships fathers and sons have in a lifetime. Idolization, demonization, and then finally, humanization. Peace.